I'm in the big leagues, told her don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly. I'm making hits, dog, like I'm in the big leagues. Told him that I gotta go, dog. I'm riding the road, y'all. I think that I'm back in my bag now. So I need that go, y'all. Got hits when they throwin' the fastball. Just too quick for it, peeling off like the whip orange. Seen they effort this piss poor. I got too much, I gotta take.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Another Turnover, the basketball podcast where a basketball fan with zero basketball credibility gives his opinions on what's going on in the NBA. Opinions that nobody asked for. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Chris Aaron Murphy, aka Ron. And ladies and gentlemen, let's just jump right into it. All right, folks, we got a fun special edition of Another Turnover today. This is Season 3, Episode 6. Man, can you believe it's already been 6 weeks? I feel like a lot has happened in the early part of this NBA season for it to only be 6 weeks. So I'm excited. So obviously, Thanksgiving, if you live in the United States, is next week. Next week, 7 days from now, because I'm recording this Thursday evening. So Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays. I mean, I love to just, eat all the foods that I shouldn't and eat as much of the food that I shouldn't. But I'm going to do something fun today. If you remember, I actually did this last year as well. I'm going to do a special Thanksgiving episode of Another Turnover today, where I'm just going to talk about 10 different things as far as basketball and the NBA goes that I'm thankful for. So I am looking forward to doing that. So before I do that, let me set this up super quick. All right, perfect. Well, all right, like I said, let's jump right into it. So I'm going to go over some things that I'm thankful for. And if you remember my show from last year, the real ones will remember, a couple of these are reoccurring, are making their second appearance in the Thanksgiving episode. So number one, the first thing that I am thankful for is none other than Steph Curry. Steph Curry is arguably having just as good a season so far in the early part of this season as to what he was having for his unanimous MVP year. I mean, he's averaging 32.8 points per game, which is second in the league in scoring as of now. 6.8 rebounds per game, which I actually looked up, is fourth among guards. And 6.4 assists per game. I mean, absolutely playing incredibly. 53% from the field is what he is shooting. 44% from three-point range, which obviously we know he can do that. I mean, it's not that surprising that he's putting up those numbers, but it's a marvel to watch. It really is. But 93% from free throw range. So on track so far, early part of the season, for a 50-40-90 season for Steph Curry. Can't say the same for his team so far. Warriors are not playing well. They are currently, as of time of recording, 6-9 on the season and 0-8 on the road. Like, absolutely terrible on the road, which, I mean, Steph Curry had, I think he had 51 just the other night against Phoenix, and they lost. And I'm just like, dang, like, that sucks. So that's a moment where you're like, man, I ain't lose, y'all lost. Like, if I was Steph Curry, no, I'm kidding. But I'm definitely thankful for him. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on, but it's definitely, you got to appreciate it while it lasts. Because, I mean, obviously Steph Curry is a bit older. He's on the wrong side of 30, as you say, in terms of the NBA. Obviously still a young man, but I'm thankful for Steph Curry and what he is doing so far in the early part of this season. But the second thing I'm thankful for, again, is inside the NBA. I was thankful for this last year, and I'm going to continue to be thankful for this show as long as it is on. It is not just one of my favorite sports shows, but one of my favorite shows on television as a whole. I mean, the crew, like the Fantastic Four, if you will, Ernie Johnson, Kenny the Jet Smith, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, just absolutely hilarious. Like, all the banter that goes on between them. Arguably, inside the NBA is often more entertaining than actual NBA games. Don't get me wrong, I love a good NBA game, especially when it's close. Super entertaining, super fun. But those post-game or pre-game and post-game shows can be a lot of fun. The shenanigans and the antics that go on. Honestly, I would recommend Inside the NBA, even if people weren't NBA fans, just because of how entertained I have been over the years with that show. The balance that they have between humor and criticism, as well as empathy for the players and people involved in the NBA, is pretty fun. And I mean, who doesn't love Charles Barkley and all the controversial stuff he says? I mean, I'm sure some people don't love him, but I do. So that show Inside the NBA is something that I will continue to be thankful for as long as it is on television. But third thing, let's get into it. The third thing that I am thankful for is Jaylen Brown. So Jaylen Brown, I mean, obviously, Jaylen Brown, guard for the Boston Celtics, phenomenal talent. I mean, one of the, top two-way players in the NBA. He is, could you say he's the Robin to Jason Tatum's Batman? I don't think that's a knock, right? That's not disrespectful. At least I don't think it is. Jaylen Brown might think it is, but I don't think it is. But the reason I am thankful for Jaylen Brown specifically this year is for the comments that, he made about Nets owner Tsai. And I actually was supposed to have the article pulled up here. Let me see if I can go to it real quick, because it was a Sports Illustrated article that I had read. And I was like, I'm liking what Jaylen Brown is doing, but for a specific reason. So here are some of the comments from Jaylen Brown about that situation. He's basically saying, he didn't say the organization. They were talking about the Kyrie Irving situation. Let me add some context. So Jaylen Brown said he didn't say that the organization was working together to get Kyrie back on the floor. He said that he had more work to do, and our society has more work to do, including Tsai. It's 2022. It takes 10 minutes to see who these business owners, corporations, etc., who they're associated with, who they're doing business with, and who they are affiliated with. So the article kind of goes on to say that Jaylen Brown has, been vocal about the situation, and he's questioned when Kyrie Irving is going to be allowed to play again. Obviously, that is unclear. There are some reports that he will be coming back this weekend, just reports as of right now. But I really appreciate Jaylen Brown sparking a much larger conversation when it comes to the Kyrie Irving, net situation. Obviously, he didn't have to, but I truly do love when players are vocal about, topics that are important to them. And, it was really nice to see him, use his platform post-game wise to kind of highlight something that has been on his mind and something that is important to him. And he raises a very good point, with Kyrie Irving not being back, the list of demands. I don't know if he explicitly commented on those, but I'm thankful for Jaylen Brown speaking up. Like I said, whether I necessarily agree or disagree with what he said is a different story, but I really, really liked, I really liked the way he broke down and eloquently explained, where he was coming from. So kudos to you, Jaylen Brown. Big respect, mad props. I'm thankful for you. But let's go on to the fourth thing. Fourth thing that I am thankful for is a little bit unconventional. It's small market teams. There have been some strong starts so far in the season from smaller market teams in the NBA, and I got to give some love. I got to give some shout out. Let's look at the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento Kings are 7-6 on the year, playing pretty well so far. If the playoffs started today, they would be in the playoffs. I mean, obviously we got a long season to go, but the Sacramento Kings are looking good. 24.6 points per game, 6.3 assists and this is for De'Aaron Fox, who is early part of the season probably up for most improved player. I would say he's in that category, but shooting 36% from three-point range, which is up for him. So the Sacramento Kings playing pretty well. They're actually the best team in California right now, statistically, better than the Warriors, better than the Clippers, and better than the Lakers. But who isn't better than the Lakers? But another small market team, obviously, this team right here, San Antonio Spurs. Started out pretty well. They started out 5-2. They're currently 6-9, so they hit a little bit of a snag, which I expected. I expected that. I didn't get my hopes up when they were 5-2, but they're 6-9, like I said, on the season. But can we give Keldon Johnson some love as well? I mean, I know I talked about De'Aaron Fox in the MIP conversation. Keldon Johnson has to be in the MIP conversation as well. 22.7 points per game. 5 rebounds, 3.6 assists, shooting 42% from three-point range. I love what, the collection of talent, young talent that the Spurs have. Jakob Poeltl has been balling out. Who else? Devin Vassell can shoot the lights out. And they just, Coach Pop, he knows how to coach. He can coach, all right? Coach Pop is one of the greatest coaches. Arguably, well, I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But Coach Pop has those boys playing some pretty solid defense overall and playing very beautiful team basketball. There was a video that I had posted on my Instagram story last week And it was basically like, does it get any better than this? Like the ball movement, the screening, the cutting, everything. Like if you love the game of basketball, you should love watching the Spurs play. Are they a little boring? Honestly, not anymore. They used to be, but I don't think they are. But another small market team that I want to give some respect to, that I'm thankful for, is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Currently 7-8 on the season, but specifically, we got to talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That man, that brother, is hooping. 32.3 points per game. Currently fourth for leading in scoring. 6 assists. Hit multiple game-winning shots just this past week. And they've had wins over Dallas, over the Clippers, over Toronto. I mean, obviously still below 500 right now, early part of the season, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been balling out, and we got to give some respect to Oklahoma City. Josh Giddey, I really like his game too, playing very well for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I know they're missing Chet Holmgren this year, but that collection of young talent in Oklahoma City could do some things. And they have like 1 million first round draft picks over the next like 5-6 years. So Oklahoma City could be a powerhouse again in the very near future. But the fifth thing that I am thankful for, I got to be thankful for Chauncey Billups and the Portland Trailblazers. So they are currently number 1 in the West, 10-4 on the season, top 10 defense. Now, Portland Trailblazers, I don't think I had them in the playoffs in my early season prediction. Yep, I had them nowhere near the playoffs. I don't even think I had them in the play-in. And that is probably going to come back to bite me. But who cares? I'm a fan. I'm not an analyst. But they are playing really, really well. 3 players scoring more than 20 points per game. You've got Damian Lillard, who, I mean, we know, he's a 20, 30, point scorer. Jeremy Grant, who is really more known for his defense, who is playing pretty well in the offensive end as well. And Anthony Simons, who is, probably that second best player in Portland and playing pretty well at such a young age. So I got to give some respect to the Portland Trailblazers. I'm thankful for them for taking all my credibility out the window, and we are not even 25% done with the season. So thanks, Portland. I appreciate you. But other thing that I am thankful for, number 6, I am thankful for Zion Williamson. And mostly I'm thankful for Zion Williamson due to his health. So we got to look at it, put it in perspective. He's missed a ton of games in his very young, early part of his career, but he's played 11 games out of the possible 17 that the New Orleans Pelicans have had this year. So that's good. We'll take it. I say that's a win for Zion Williamson. He has been on the floor. He's putting up a pretty good stat line so far, too. I think he's like 22 points per game, about 4 rebounds, 4 assists, somewhere around that. I don't have his stats actually pulled up directly here. But they are playing Boston tonight being Thursday night. And I believe he is out for that game, ironically. But playing in, like I said, 11 out of the 17 games so far. I know the New Orleans Pelicans are still cautious with him, with his injury history and whatnot, but I just want to see him on the floor. He's so dynamic. He's so electric. I just got to see Zion Williamson play. But another reason why I am thankful for Zion Williamson, this was a post-game the other day, I want to say about 3 or 4 days ago, where he sounded just like social media star Drewski. If anybody follows Drewski online, absolutely hilarious. Could have been records, hilarious videos, skits and whatnot that he does. But he sounded just like him, and I wanted to play a quick soundbite because it was hilarious. So this was Zion Williamson post-game after their win just the other day.
On the other end, how would you rate your defense tonight?
You tell me, man. I'm gonna know something about you. How would you rate my defense tonight? Be honest. There's no wrong answers. Be honest. Be honest. I can accept that. I can accept. We got the win. I can accept that. I appreciate your honesty.
I just love that. You tell me, man. Like that was such a Drewski line. That was such a Drewski cadence the way that he portrayed that. So I appreciate you, Zion Williamson. Very meme worthy that we saw from you, and that was arguably one of my favorite post game moments of the season so far. So thank you for that. But number 7, this is going to surprise a lot of people. The 7th thing that I am thankful for this year is the Los Angeles Lakers. And you know why I'm thankful for the Los Angeles Lakers? Because they're exactly where I thought they would be. They are right at the bottom of the barrel of the Western Conference, the second worst team in the league right now, currently 3-10 on the year. I'm such a hater. But they have shown flashes of, that former glory, that 2020 championship team here and there, but this is no contending team. These pieces just don't fit. I know I raved a little bit about Russell Westbrook, and I'm going to continue to do so. Him off the bench has been a good move by Darvin Ham, and he has so far done well in that role, but still, it doesn't fix their defensive hiccups. It doesn't fix their poor shooting. That was a good move, a good step in the right direction, but this team, it ain't it. It ain't it. So I am thankful for the Los Angeles Lakers for proving me right so far, because I did proclaim that the Lakers would miss the playoffs. As of right now, still early, still plenty of time for them to get it right. I hope they don't, but I did not have them in the playoffs at all. I said it was a hot take, but some people have told me that's not necessarily a hot take. So thank you, Lakers, for giving me some credibility on this show. But all right, the 8th thing that I am thankful for. I am thankful for league parity. And what I mean by that is, so far in the early part of the season, there's no clear-cut favorite. There's no that number one team like it was, Golden State a few years back, like, hey, that team is pretty much going to win the championship. Each team right now is battling through their fair share of issues, whether it's injury, whether it's chemistry, whether it's coaching. Every single team in the league has something that they're dealing with so far. Obviously, we don't want any team to be dealing with injuries. We want everybody 100% healthy at all times, but it's the nature of the game. But it has led to some interesting basketball so far. I mean, like I talked about, with the standings, like the Kings are better. You have the Portland Trailblazers, who are number one in the West, which nobody predicted early on in the early season. The Jazz, who I raved about last week, they were, in the headlines for me last week. Who else has, surprisingly played well? I mean, on the Eastern Conference side, I had Atlanta making the playoffs, but I definitely had them lower. They're currently 3rd right now as of the time we're recording. Cleveland has taken a little bit of a slide. They are 4th right now, but I'm thankful, because I'm like, right now, I would say, like, I don't have, they're favorites, don't get me wrong. Celtics are a favorite, Bucks are a favorite right now, but I just don't see it. There's no clear number one. And I like it that way. It's more entertaining. It's more exciting that way, isn't it? At least it is to me. But I'm thankful for league parity. So appreciate that from the league. But the 9th thing that I am thankful for, I kind of alluded to it earlier. I am thankful for the current generational talents that we have in the NBA that are probably on the tail end, if not outside of their primes. And what I mean by that, there's 3 players specifically that there will, never be another like them. You've got LeBron, you've got Kevin Durant, and you've got Steph Curry, all over 34, if I'm not mistaken, 34. I know LeBron's going to be 38 here next month. I think Steph Curry will be 35 next year. I think KD will be 35 next year as well, 35 or 36 potentially. And so they're on the tail end of their primes, and they are, they've been the league's titans for, quite some time now, for a very long time. And it'll be sad to see them not playing anymore. Like, LeBron James came into the league when I was 8 years old. Like, think about that. And I just turned 27 earlier in the year. So been in the league 19 seasons. It's, Steph Curry's been in the league since 08, 09, if I'm not mistaken. I think Kevin Durant came in 07. So, these guys have been putting on a show for us for a long time, entertaining us. And as much as I hate on LeBron, like, LeBron's one of the greatest of all time. If he's not in your top 5, you're doing something wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Kevin Durant, I'd probably say, top 20 all-timer. Steph Curry, probably a top 20 all-timer as well. These guys, like I said, there'll just never be another like them. LeBron was kind of a hybrid between Scottie Pippen and Magic Johnson, with some, great scoring ability. He's probably going to be the number 1 leading scorer. Once it's all said and done later on the season, I think he's got about 1,000 points to go. If I'm not 1,000 points? Yeah, I think so, which is doable for the season. But, Kevin Durant, arguably seen as one of the greatest scorers of all time. Stephen Curry, widely regarded as the greatest shooter that we have ever seen in the NBA. So I will be sad to see him go. So let's take the time to be thankful for the times that we've had, and to be thankful for, the time that's left, because, their career is is winding down. We'll say that. So I'm thankful for you, LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. Thank you. But the last thing, ladies and gentlemen, that I am thankful for. I'm going to talk more about the Spurs. I am thankful for Spurs head coach Greg Popovich, Mr. Greg Popovich. I hope I get to meet this man one day. Probably not, but hopefully we'll see. But, I mean, Greg Popovich, you can see what he's doing. I kind of alluded to it earlier when I was talking about the Spurs. Obviously, they're 6-9 on the season, but he's always been able to maximize the talent from anybody that he's had on his squad. And I've always respected that. I've always appreciated that about him. I mean, he is the winningest coach all time in the NBA with right now 1,350 wins and counting. More wins than Don Nelson, more wins than Lenny Wilkins, and more wins than Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson is not a better coach than Greg Popovich, and I will stand on that hill for as long as I need to. Phil Jackson had better players. He's not a better coach than Greg Popovich, but anyway, I digress. 5-time champion, from Greg Popovich, 5 championships in 20 seasons. An Olympic gold medalist when people said that, the USA is going to lose in the Olympics this year, and they won it. Mostly because of Kevin Durant, but still, he was the head coach. 3-time coach of the year. I mean, just all the things that, Greg Popovich has accomplished in his career. He is, I know I'm biased, but he's the greatest coach that the NBA has ever had. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't want to hear it. Greg Popovich, thank you for all you've done. Like I said, I hope I get to meet you one day, and give you a thanks in person. But those are the things that I am thankful for on this Thanksgiving season for the NBA. So I appreciate y'all listening. Let's talk about marquee matchups before we wrap up here. So let's talk about how we did last week. So marquee matchups are really close. I think, spots 1 through 4 are separated by 4 points, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm excited to see who is going to win it. We're coming up on week 6, and there will only be 3 more weeks after that before I tally up all the points and inform everyone who the winner is for their $50 Fanatics gift card. So, but last week, let's talk about last week's games. So Boston ended up beating Denver, so I did correctly pick that game. Brooklyn ended up beating the Clippers on the road, and I also picked that game correctly. And then Utah was doing all that winning. Like I said last week, if you remember, Utah lost to the Philadelphia 76ers, on the road. They were playing in Philly. And I knew it. I put it out there. I said, as soon as I pick the Utah Jazz, they're probably going to lose. And that's what happened. But it's okay. It was last week. It was in the past. Let's talk about this week's game. So I wanted to pick some teams that I hadn't really picked before. And I think I got a couple of them in there. So this week, we've got the New York Knicks taking on the Golden State Warriors in San Francisco. You have the Orlando Magic taking on the Indiana Pacers. This is a game that I picked. I mean, 2, lower tier teams in terms of record, but they're young, they're hungry, and I'm curious to see who's going to win this game. You got Paolo Banchero on one side. You have Tyrese Halliburton playing for the Indiana Pacers, so I think it should be a pretty decent matchup. And then you have the Miami Heat and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I'm going to go ahead. Warriors have been really good at home. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Warriors. So I'm going to pick them. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Indiana Pacers to win against the Orlando Magic. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick the Miami Heat to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland's been on a skid recently, so, I don't feel good about that at all. Now I'm going to go with Miami. Why not? Who cares? But those are the 3 teams that I picked: Golden State, Indiana, and Miami. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all the show I have for you fine folks on this lovely Thanksgiving or Thanks edition of Another Turnover. There will not be a show next week. Be taking off for Thanksgiving holiday and all the festivities. But there will still be marquee matchups, so be on the lookout for Instagram story, Twitter, and all the other platforms to see what the games will be for the week. But because I won't see you next week, I hope you have a very, very happy Thanksgiving full of food, family, and fun, and just be safe and do the things that you want to do. But if you can do all the good things, like, share, subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. But can't wait to see you, not next week, but the following week. Will be December. Christmas season is in the air. But anyway, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.
Got old problems with the friends new. Yeah, I'm in the big leagues. Told her don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. Yeah, I need a bag, bruh. Send it through quickly. I'm making his dog.